Okay, hi everyone, Deb here. I'm going to be answering a few questions from the Q&A comment area under that heading. And the first one I have to read from Beth Jansen. She writes, I've gone through the mini course, but I don't fully understand how Mark Bucket and praise will be as intrinsically rewarding for my dog as a toy. Although this was mentioned in the course, I didn't see information on how one would accomplish this. And that's a fantastic question because especially in the agility world, toys are the go-to reward right now that I've even seen people kind of squash down for having a dog that they don't reward with toys. So it will be an interesting process if you're willing to engage in it, but here's how it starts. That by engaging in mark training with your dog, it's going to slow things down. Your dog is going to be stepping onto a mark bucket, creating a pause. And in that pause, you have the opportunity to intentionally and authentically give your dog praise. And a lot of us do this intuitively, and we're pretty consistent about it. I mean, I'm very communicative to my dogs, so I have always used praise before giving external rewards. But for a lot of people, they tend to be naturally quiet, and so all the dog has ever been given as a reward is either food or a toy. So that's what the dog's expecting. And I want to give this fun story example of expectations that when I went to the Caribbean for the first time, Antigua to be specific, I remember being seated at a restaurant, and things go pretty slow in the Caribbean sometimes, and just watching, the servers go around, kind of waiting for them to come over and take our drink order. And then we saw new people being seated and the waiters going around. And then I noticed the waiters are taking the orders of people who came in after us. And I'm like, oh, that's not right. That's not right. My expectation is based on you get seated first and you get your order taken first. So the waiter eventually comes over and I point out this horrible thing that's happened to me. And he's like, oh, we don't do that here. And at that point I realized, hey, I'm on vacation. They don't do that here. And I got over it. I stopped expecting that when I was seated would have anything to do with when I was served. So I think the same is true for dogs, that if all they've ever gotten from us is a toy, that's what they're expecting. And we don't know how deeply our dog appreciates praise. I recently, just today, posted a great article that is based on a study of dogs done in functional MRI scanners. And they show that the dog's response to tone, so the authentic, the feeling or emotion behind words, is processed in an old part of the brain. And the words themselves, if recognizable, are processed in the new part of the brain. And that is why I think it explains why we sense that dogs know what we're feeling when we're communicating to them, because they actually do know what we're feeling. So going back to mark training is by creating a pause for those of us who don't naturally gush our emotions towards our dogs when training. It gives us an opportunity to build new habits. So how does this ever become as rewarding to your dog as a toy? Well, Dakota was a huge toy dog. And as part of my developing the Oceans Foundation course, I got to create a bunch of videos, and I really had to think through everything that I've been doing for 6 years specifically regarding these ocean principles, but even longer in terms of authentically interacting with my dogs. And where was I going with that? Oh, I know. How I realized that I was the one addicted to toys, not Dakota. So just like me in the restaurant, Dakota anticipated getting a toy because that's what I always gave him as the reward. And as I thought more about it, that I knew he enjoyed the work that we were doing together. No matter what it is, he loves doing interactive stuff with me. And what I felt like it was similar to is work was like a steak dinner. that he was thoroughly enjoying, completely content with just the steak dinner, maybe a baked potato and sour cream, whatever. But then I whip out the toy and I'm like, ice cream, candy, everything you ever wanted in your life, look what I got. So he's like, huh? Ice cream, candy? And so all of a sudden, the steak dinner kind of gets downplayed or one-upped by this eager, enthusiastic response I've had to giving him the toy. And how I came to realize that this was a slight problem is I've been noticing for at least a year that when Dakota comes out of turns on agility courses, that there is a slight pause, that he doesn't drive out of these wraps and turns towards me like I would expect. And then finally, through Ocean, I put it together that I play with a toy with Dakota in the evening, most evenings. And for my entertainment, I like to do some variety of things. So I'll send him around a tree, I'll recall him to heel, I'll wrap him around me, whatever. I just don't like throwing a toy for a dog. I find it boring myself. So anyway, and what I realized was when he was coming around the tree after I had disappeared for a second, just based on the nature of a tree being solid and him going around the back of it, that he was coming around with a question of, is she going to be doing more handling or is she going to be throwing the toy at me for me to catch in my mouth? And if she's going to throw the toy for me to catch in my mouth, I better be ready. So he'd come around the tree, slight pause to see what's happening next. So once I removed the toy from this game that we play in my yard a lot, it didn't take long before that slight pause changed. And now he comes around the tree, driving hard, knowing that I'm going to be showing handling. So that's an example of the benefits of removing toys, I guess. And the other odd thing I noticed, not odd, just unexpected, is I thought the toy was creating more drive and more motivation. But interestingly enough, after 2 weeks of weaning myself off the toy, he is giving me more drive and higher levels of enthusiasm. And he's like teetering on the edge of epic loss of control. Exactly the kind of mindset that I love when doing agility or doing anything. And I think that toy was that anticipation of, when's a toy coming? When's a toy coming? When's a toy coming? I think that was actually a slight distraction for him. So what I encourage you to do, if you're curious to see how your dog responds to a different form of reward, that being praise and interacting with you, and through mark training, which I'll get more into probably in another question, I really encourage you to just give it a try and don't go cold turkey like all of a sudden no toy. Your dog's going to think, whoa, what happened here? I've gotten these for X number of years and now no toy. But, gradually, maybe just leave the toy on a table, do some reps, use praise, use certain types of touch that your dog likes. You can experiment with that. And then go over and get the toy and do whatever you normally do. And just see what happens to your dog. You might be as surprised as I was. And definitely check in here because we all want to know what happened. Okay.